Good afternoon. Here we are for another roll reveal. Thank you for allowing me this morning to take the break that I needed. I was really having an issue. But here we go. We have a 2013 Philadelphia roll here. 2013 Philadelphia has always been a relatively interesting year date for me because there are a number of double dies known both obverse and reverse on these. And I just wanted to open up a roll and see. And so these went relatively cheap. I happen to have a 2013 roll and decided, oh, well, it's about time to see what we can do here. Otis drinks coffee clear up to bedtime. You guys are rolling my style now. Other people are out getting alcoholic drinks and I'm still making coffee. All right. Well, I got my roll out and ready. So, let's see who's first. Let's see what we get. Oh, my camera's not on. I gotta get the camera started. Kick the camera. There's that. And Trip gets this first coin in this roll. And let's see what we've got. Okay, well, it looks normal around the date area. I got to get myself a little bit used to looking at these, so it's going to take me a little bit of time to get the first few coins out of the way. Let me turn my exposure down just a little bit. There we go. Have to be able to deal with the really shiny stuff here. There's Kevin, Paul, Eric, Alex, Otis. Man, we've got an Eric. We've got a crowd forming here. Okay, first coin out. Don't see anything other than the normal stuff you usually see. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. All right. Coin number one goes down in the books as being normal. Let's change that. Here's one for Mickey. Let's see what we get from Mickey here. Well, looks like just about the same thing for the obverse. Let's check the reverse and see. This must have been the ender coin. A couple of them got flipped, I guess. This is the one that was on the end. It's got the circle of death on it. So that one is going to turn around to be not much. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Otis. I'm not the most fond of the shield design either. It'll be nice if they ever decide to change it. I don't know that'll ever happen. Look at that. You got a strange drag mark on the die there. Going through the one of the date. Nothing on that side. Reverse. A lot of times we're checking the lower serifs of the letters. You can also check in the incuse area for any extra thin parts. Some people look right in the center of the design, which is the shield line below the B and below the U. The lines, the bars on the shield, they look there for any doubling. Look at the initials on both sides of the shield for doubling. Oh, for varieties, it's fine. They haven't really changed a whole lot with regard to the number of varieties that they're putting out these days. In fact, there's more than there had been in the 2000 to 2008 era, if you don't count the little columns in the memorial. A lot of times you'll see extra thickness in the LB or the JFM initials. That's kind of how you can pick up the double die reverses that do exist. There's not a huge plethora of them, but 2013 is just an interesting year to check out, you know? If I do see anything, I'll stop and let you know for sure. I hope everybody in the southern half of the United States is ready for the weather system about to move through. Seems as though everything from like East Texas and western Louisiana all the way across through Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and here in North Carolina, we're all expecting some form of severe weather either tomorrow or Wednesday. Keep your eyeballs open for anything that should occur. These coins are a little spotty. There's a bit spotty, Scotty. Yep. It'll be in Texas, Louisiana tomorrow, and into Mississippi tomorrow evening, tomorrow night into Alabama, and then looking at Wednesday morning in Georgia and the Carolinas through the end of the day on Wednesday, moving off the Atlantic coast. It's a relatively fast-moving storm, has a lot of upper dynamics that will give it a good chance for spin and a lot of rain and a lot of wind. Wind is the biggest thing for this one. Expecting gusts up to 50, 60, 70 miles an hour with some of these storms. Yeah, cloudy and cool. It's sunny here. We had a low temperature overnight of about 27 degrees. And I think it's in the mid-50s right now. But we're expecting high temperature up into the 70s tomorrow. And that is a lead-in to the storm system. All that warm air gets pushed northward in the front edge of a storm system like that. Number 9, Mark Thomas. And for Mark, yeah, it looks the same as a lot of the others. Not seeing anything there. Doing obverse and reverse on all these coins because pulling markers and remembering markers is so hard to do with these more modern ones. We've seen this die before, I know that. I don't even know what that is exactly. It's like it might have been struck through a piece of wire or something. It's kind of weird. But it's not struck through, it's actually poked out on the coin. So it had to have been sunken into the die. It was damage to the die some form or fashion. Made that little line. Yeah, we're having a problem with dryness here as well. I'm sure you've seen on the national news that there have been some pretty big problems out west in North Carolina, from central to western North Carolina up toward the Black Mountains. A lot of wildfire areas, and a couple of them have become quite large and are threatening towns and homes. We have not had that issue here in this area, but we are under fire danger weather. So it would not surprise me if something did pop up in this area. And dude, fire is something you don't get away from. I mean, your property doesn't anyway. You can get up and run. Unfortunately, your house cannot, unless you live in an RV. South Carolina's really getting smashed. I mean, they've got like 190 fires in South Carolina. North Carolina only has a couple dozen. Good Lord. How much uglier can a coin in the middle of a bank-wrapped roll that's only 20 years old, or 10 years old, how much uglier can it get? 12-year-old roll of coins. Okay. In a van down by the river. Yeah, real funny. You'll get a lot of laughs when you're living in a van down by the river. There's another one of those. Oddball little thing. It really isn't that much about the wear and tear. It's more about how they just don't care anymore. It's like they make these coins as a piece of utilitarian tool of use in commerce. They don't make them to be collectible. They don't make them to be pretty. They don't make them to be heraldic or majestic. Not like they did during the Renaissance of United States coins around 1907 is when that all started with the saint. In 1916 when the quarter and the dime changed. And the nickel. We went through a period where the Americana of our coins was really heavy, really, really nice. A lot of serious artwork went into making our pocket change. And it seems in the last 20 to 30 years, they've done everything they could to ruin that. And our coins are now just coins. They're not artwork anymore. They attempt to talk us into believing that our coins are still artwork by putting out these statehood commemorative and national park commemorative quarters and things like that. And as long as they're going to make coins as flat as they do, with no real relief and cheating relief to get design, just makes things look kind of hokey. And that's my opinion of today's coinage. It's all just hokey. Coin number 17 now. This goes to Bullhampton. It looks like there's a pretty decent chance we're not getting anything out of this roll. I'm sure you guys have seen the video by now where I show you about dropping the coins Lincoln cents onto a wooden table to listen for their ring for copper and a dead thud for zinc. So not only have we gone to making coins with shallow designs, rounded serifs and things like that so you can't see their mistakes, but we have also gone to making them out of pot metal. Yay. So now we have ugly coins on crappy metal. Yay. There has to be a better way. Could you ever imagine if we could properly drain the swamp in government and then spend that money on things that made our country a majestic place, one of those things would be bringing beautiful money back into our pockets. Could you imagine having a new series of notes that show American commerce in beautiful artwork, as happened with the educational series notes in 1896? That would be amazing. Could you imagine a time where people from around the world called upon the United States for collectible coins? And this one's even partially plated. The zinc plating, the copper plating didn't even make it to the very edge of this coin. It's exposed to the outside air, which will eventually chew this coin down to nothing. Could you imagine us having designs on our coins so beautiful people travel to our country just to get pocket change to carry back home with them? Could you imagine the economic boon that would bring to the United States? Coming here to see, visit, and partake of the wonderful and great country we have turned into. Up out of the ashes, back into being a world power. Now, don't for a moment believe that I am in the camp that believes our current administration can successfully do this. I think it will take 10 to 20 years for success. Well, the person in the big seat's not the one that makes nearly as much difference as the ones we vote for. And the ones we actually vote for, the ones in Congress and in the House, are the ones that make most of the decisions as far as all that is concerned. We do have a president, and we do have a president who has executive order and has the right to be able to write emergency actions into law, but is limited, thankfully. And most of what they do every 4 or 8 years, when a new person makes the Resolute desk their own in the Oval Office, they tend to spend days writing executive orders to back out what the previous executive did. So essentially all we're doing is tearing all the pages out of the coloring book that the other person colored on, so they don't exist anymore. So we can color our own pages into the coloring book just so the next person can tear them out. What we're looking for, what I'm looking for, what I would love to see in our country is a cohesive government entity that takes the better good of all Americans into account and does things for the better of the people of the United States that do not result in someone wanting to cancel whatever that was. Oh, farm dog. Just imagine having a president that makes all the moves with the other side of the aisle in mind and does whatever it takes to get things to pass bilaterally into law so that we can continue to move forward instead of hitting the reset button every 4 years. because that seems to be all we're doing. One cancels the effect of the other, which cancels the effect of the other, which cancels the effect of the other, and we never get anywhere. I can't name a time since the presidency of George Bush Sr. that we have had an agreeable moment across the aisle in Congress or in Senate. Since the presidency of George Bush Sr., that ended in 1992. Yeah. If you're using your noggin there, that was 23 years ago now. Not to say that we haven't had decent presidents. We've just had an issue with the larger part of the government that we vote for. And those people elected into the chairs where they sit, generally never elected back out of those chairs, take their office, make up their office in Washington, D.C. We never see or hear from them again because they now live in Washington, D.C. and don't really care that much about their home states anymore. They make laws based on their political affiliation, not based on what their people want. They can sit there for the remainder of their life and vote for their own pay raises. And when they finally decide to retire or retirement is decided upon for them, they draw 100% of their paycheck for the remainder of their life. Is there anyone else in this country who can draw 100% of their pay for the remainder of their life after retiring from a 4-year job? Don't think so. Most Americans, after retirement, are lucky to draw 20% of their last paycheck for the remainder of their life, and that's only if they worked for that particular company long enough to be vetted by the company, which is usually around 14 years. If you have 10 years in with a company and you leave, your 401k, 403b, whatever it is the only retirement you get from that company, because that's all that's required by law. But no, if you are a United States congressman, you get elected into the position. Even if you do a horrible job, never show up for a vote, and get elected out 4 years later, you still get the remainder of your life to enjoy 100% of your assigned pay. Where is that fair? Sounds about right what Eric is saying. If you want to make sure that you get good health care, you make sure that the Senate and Congress have to take the exact same thing you get as their insurance. Healthcare would improve in a hurry in this country. We have the elitists who claim that they're not the elite, running everything in this country for their own pockets. I'm going to have to change this a little bit here. These are too bright, too shiny, it's too white, too black. It's hard to get the middle ground. There we go. Got a little bit more middle ground out of this. I know it's not very noticeable to everyone, but if you're used to looking at photographs or watching video at all, you will see that there's a bit of a difference in how this is set now as to how it was set 1 minute ago. Well, it wouldn't bother me too much to have people be able to serve 2 consecutive terms, just like the president. It doesn't make any sense how a position like the president is pushed out after 8 years, or 8 years in office, and they aren't the ones who make the final decisions on laws. Sure, they send laws up to the president to be signed, or bills up to the president to be signed into law, and if he doesn't like it, he vetoes it. Well, he's not the final decision. The decision goes back to that body of government that we elect into power and stays in power for the remainder of their life to override the president's veto and go ahead and make the law anyway. They just have to have a larger majority. Well, I would argue to say that some of those people probably understand the job better than we do, and they understand how to do the job possibly better than we do. But I fail to see where their work is so invigoratingly difficult or mind-numbingly boring that they should be paid exorbitant amounts of money to keep that job. And then once they are out of that job, they have voted for themselves to receive a 100% pension for the remainder of their life. And I'm sure the next step is figuring out some way that their survivors will also get 100% of their pension until they are gone, 2, 3, even 4 generations into the future. I mean, that is the next step. But then again, the next silly step of business isn't always the one that happens. I had at one point in time believed that the major grading services were going to stop just grading coins and start grading coins in a tenth of a point scale, like MS 63.3, MS 63.4, and then everyone would want to turn their coins back in to get them graded again, thus making the same amount of money all over again for the company who slapped the initial grade, which now seems too vague, onto those labels. That hasn't happened. The other thing that I thought would happen is that the same grading companies would begin grading coins with die state in mind, so that you would get a 63 EDS, 63 LDS, 63, and there would be different 63. 63 proof-like is already one of them, and the 63 proof-like would generally be a coin in MS63 condition that is very early die state and shows very clean fields. That generally will give a coin a proof-like designation if those fields were nice and polished. But those money-making measures never really hit the desk of the top executives and board of the grading companies, fortunately. Either that or it did, and some form of reason came into play, and the decision was knocked down. Seems that in some forms, common sense has overcome the itch in a pocket to become fatter. Now, actually, you don't want them grading coins with die state in mind, because all that does is feed the monster a lot more than it's already been fed. All it would do is make the companies larger, and we don't need the companies to be larger. The grading companies already have way too much power in the industry. They already have way too much power over collectors. To think that the holders that they make are any more protective than holders you can buy at 1/20th of the price is a laugh. The only thing that they will do that other holders won't do is they will give you a professional opinion as to authenticity and grade. But that, once again, is still a subjective opinion to which a lot of people disagree. it would be brutal for everyone except the executives of the companies who would be making the lion's share of the money. I'm sure the graders and the processors don't want to see that happen either, any more than the commoner like you and I. You end up with a collection of a couple of hundred graded coins that are all nice and evenly matched. And then in order for that to benefit your next generation, you have to turn all those coins back in and pay $25 per coin to have them regraded. No. Not something any of us want to see. Coin number 43 now for Sissy. Let's see what Sissy gets. It looks like this entire roll, aside from being relatively low quality, which I couldn't control, is also pretty much all normal coins, which I also couldn't control. They just happen to come that way sometimes, and we have to accept it and move on. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of people just like you, Otis, that slabs are not a part of your future. And the same would hold true with me, personally. However, being a person who purveys coins and sells them, I have to be, well, if I want to survive the business and be able to have a relatively comfortable life going forward, I have to partake in that game to make enough money to keep my groceries coming to the table. There are ways of doing it with big hoards of copper pennies and selling them for just a little bit over what I buy them for. If I get enough and break my back enough, wear my vehicles out enough, I could make a living doing that. But it would be a matter of finding these piles of coins and purchasing, negotiating their purchase, getting them back to my home, and then sorting, separating whatever I'm going to do with them, and then running them for sale is a full-time job and does not bring much of a margin. So grading coins has to be a part of a dealer's life, whether they personally care or not about grading coins or purchasing graded coins. I personally, if you want to sell me a coin, I couldn't care less if it was in a holder or not. Half of what I buy comes out of holders anyway. I definitely don't keep coins in holders just because they already are. We are approaching 45 minutes after the hour. I will be back on the hour for our next roll, which will be, is it the last? Yes, I believe it is. Yeah, it will be the last roll in this chain before tonight's roll reveal show, in which Eric will be selling, I believe, 4 rolls, and I will be selling 3. I may change my mind before that time and throw on a couple of extra rolls, but for right now, my plan is to sell 3. I can't remember the ones that Eric will be doing, but the 3 that I will be doing will be ones that will get some following, I'm sure. We'll have a 1951D BU roll, and then a 1970S original roll, and then a 1972 Philadelphia original roll. Got those 3 rolls coming up this coming week. If Eric is still out there, he can enter in the ones that he has, because I would have to go over to my private chat to read through and figure out which ones they were, I could do that. In fact, I will. At the end of examination of this being the 50th coin and final coin in the roll, it has a circle of death on this end, so it was a very tightly wrapped roll. Unfortunately, that kills the coins on either end. And that is what we have. There we go. A 58D, a 92 Philly, a 45S, and a 1960D is what Eric will be revealing this coming week. So we have a crowd, and I would like to see a crowd this evening. And I will be back in about 20 minutes with our next show. I appreciate you guys showing up. And come back, look for reveal number 746. That's going to be the 2023 roll. And I'll see you then.